I'm David Jones. In this series of videos, I'm making a case for my discovery of a strange attractor that underlies all human participation in outcome-focused endeavours. In this video, I represent the question-answering dynamic in terms of a strange attractor, combining the introduction to complexity theory from the first video with the QA complex in the second video. Humans make by speaking. This series of presentations introduces the strange attractor that is common to all human making by speaking. This MBS attractor was discovered by David Jones during studies that commenced in 1990 and is now being researched and commercialised by Dylan Jones and David Jones. So, there are three phase spaces in this strange attractor. The first phase is pre-question. The second phase is post-question and pre-answer. The third phase is post-answer. The relationship of the strange attractor to the simple rules is that the major phase transitions take place at the point at which we are content with our elucidation of the question and at the point at which we are content with our elucidation of the answer. Like the double pendulum that traces out a bowl, the conversations we have to answer a question trace out a strange attractor. Imagine that each dot is tracing our progress in a cooperative conversation. It will stay in the phase space, but its path might be very different. As well as looking at the dynamics that cluster together, we can look at the way some phenomena unfold along the pattern. Imagine some well-researched continua, such as the extensive work around orality and literacy by scholars like Cochlear and Ong. Any given phenomenon could be analysed in terms of its point on such a continuum. Some features Ong would note that fit on the question answering dynamic would be orality is the realm of spirituality, enabling a distance between event and meaning. It is a context characterised by ongoing questioning. On the journey away from oral dependency, we accrete knowledge from the past, bind it into the future, and create increased density of interactions. In a literate culture, texts enable space-time distribution of frozen meaning. This lamination of multiple dynamics inevitably leads to a social and material thickening of any given question-answering trajectory. At first, subtly and socially, and then with growing momentum, more voices are added, more hopes are raised, more notes are written, more promises are made. Knowledge work, at first weightless, has more resources allocated, more existing social and material actors enlisted. Thickness comes in both the social and material. Socially, the frequency, intensity, and depth of the knowledge entailed in the social interactions. Materially, the increased use of instrumentation and the trail of artefacts, plans, presentations, drafts, models, prototypes, and the increasing realisation of the hypothesised means to satisfy our want. Because questions and answers can be deeply nested in the way Collingwood described, the question-answering complex makes it clear why the pattern can be fractal. Larger questions can be answered by smaller recursive sets of questions and answers. Because human inquiry is distinctively conducted in human language, knowledge development takes the form of making by speaking. And the making by speaking attractor is revealed in conversational ecosystems. And these conversational ecosystems are evidenced by recurring socio-material clusters of actions and artifacts. So, because our human development, our growing up, takes place within this milieu, we develop a deep familiarity with this way of proceeding. Indeed, the attractor shapes our coordination and our cooperation toward outcomes. Wherever humans cooperate in purposeful pursuits, this attractor is visible in their conduct and milestone artifacts at every level of recursion. To respect the core identity of this social phenomenon, we refer to it as our conversational cognition. The attractor gives rise to emergent phenomena we can observe in many arenas. And because the shape of the question very often arises because of a want, a lack or a desire, and answering the question lies in the satisfaction of the want, then the dynamical system that enacts the attractor has a socio-material gradient, a thickening of social interactions or of material interactions or both, a trajectory. And some of the most obvious components of the pattern lie in the gradient set up by the attractor. There's a connection between the pattern, the attractor, and the resultant ways of thinking, acting, leading, and organising. And that, in fact, is how the attractor was identified over the years of research into knowledge development processes. Some of these patterns can be described with a broad brush, such as this socio-technical gradient. The words are describing observable trends in social systems, not technical definitions. But recognising the attractor in the background could have a great deal of impact on how we define those terms. Many of the patterns then interweave and overdetermine the CAS. Orality has its roots in relational co-presence and community. The production of artifacts shifts relationships from one to many. It is effectively a process of objectification. And when we arrive at a fully literate society, knowers can be separated from the known. So question answering trends from the social and relational to the technical and instrumental. Another example. The pattern shows up in high-level features of our thinking. Hermeneutical, interpretive, circular, making meaning out of our desires or sense of our needs. Iterative design, creative, often metaphorically inspired, using abductive or dissociative modes to create novelty. Linear inferential, binary, in-out, directed to closure and accomplishment, using logical and analytical methods to extrapolate and extend knowledge. Why is this insight so powerful? Because the pattern is fractal, it provides a recursive frame of explanation of social forms, not just discursive forms. Each of these phases may be momentary and subconscious, or at scale, they can have significant social, material, and temporal dimensions. To give an example of each phase at scale, in the pre-question or arriving at the question phase, many First Nation cultures have social rituals for allowing the question to arise, such as circle talking that may go across days. These approaches are gaining currency as ways of proceeding in Euro-Western social improvement initiatives, which consult multiple stakeholders. In large-scale infrastructure projects worth billions, getting the question clear and stable results in requirements documentation. Design as a social technology has now swept enough Euro-Western enterprises for its character to be well understood as a set of conversations in which the problem and solution co-emerge. The transfer of specifications as contracts for the manufacture of specified deliverables, from estate housing to plastic cutlery to microchips, are clear instances of clarifying the answer. And every instance of the manufacturing processes that ensue are evidence for the phase of enacting a satisfaction. Some of the emergent features have significant implications for ontology. Understanding what drives the distribution of social phenomena at different levels of organisation allows us to integrate what otherwise always seem to crop up as binaries and polarising choices. Boisseau and McKelvey drew on the phenomenon of parallel law distributed phenomena that is associated with this and created a single overarching framework to integrate the different ontological assumptions between the order-seeking regime of the modernists and the riches-seeking regime of the postmodernists. In summary, human activities that cooperate around purpose take the form of a complex adaptive system. Via an account of that complex adaptive system as a question-answering activity, we can see the strange attractor revealed by patterns in aspects of reality that occur, but we're not necessarily aware of, and see the attractor features that are observable and measurable. In the next episode, I will demonstrate the ecosystems of participation generated by the attractor and reveal some ways the attractor shows up in existing theories and models of practice. We're seeking research partners in different disciplinary domains whose work will be impacted by this discovery. Proactive partnerships to research the implications of this attractor across many practice and theory fields.